Well, welcome everyone to today's MASP Caregiver Forum. It's wonderful to see you all here. I am Kelly Fisher. I am the MASP Marine Corps Service Lead, and I'm very excited to introduce you to Mrs. Colleen Rose. Colleen is an Elizabeth Dole Foundation Fellow alumna and military spouse and caregiver and mother and secret superhero. So she is going to tell us all about the Elizabeth Dole Foundation today and about her story and some of her experiences. With that, I will turn it over to you, Colleen.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. I have to say, we are big proponents of MASP. My husband got involved with them almost right after he got injured. And I feel like one of the special things about MASP is that y'all invited us, caregivers, family members, right from the get-go. So I feel like this is very much preaching to the choir. So thank you for inviting me. I am going to try to share my screen and figure out what I'm doing. But while I'm doing that, I'm really happy to make this an interactive presentation. Please feel free to put your mic on, type in the chat, raise your hand if you have any questions, want to get me back on track because I'm rambling. Please feel free to jump in. I feel like it can be a little more fun if there's some back and forth and it's not just me kind of yammering on for however long this takes. So just to make sure y'all can see my screen, correct? Okay, cool. All right, so as Kelly shared a little bit about me, I am a military spouse. My husband is Gunnery Sergeant Jonathan Rose. He works for the Wounded Warrior Regiment right now. He's an active duty Marine. I am an occupational therapist for the Fairfax County Public Schools. I am a cancer survivor. My husband shaved my head. That is the picture right after. I think he had a little bit too much fun doing that, hence the huge smile. I'm a new mom. That is a picture of my sweet little baby who will be 1 next month. And the reason why I'm here is I am an Elizabeth Dole Caregiver Fellow alumna. That is my very fancy Gmail email address. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to forward them along afterwards. Okay, so the Elizabeth Dole Foundation was founded by, no surprise, Senator Elizabeth Dole. When Senator Bob was receiving care at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in 2011, she saw firsthand the struggles that caregivers were having. And she's very much somebody that talks the talk and walks the walk. So after seeing these difficulties, she founded the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And in just about the 10 years that the program has been live, they have become really the preeminent caregiver nonprofit organization that works on advocating and empowering caregivers across the country. And since then, lots and lots of programs and tools have been created from the start. And Senator walks the walk and talks the talk. And she knows that in Washington, D.C., if you want to get something done, you need the data. So following creating the Fellows program, she put forth some research by the RAND Corporation to find out who exactly the caregivers are. And from that research and from the words of caregivers, the programs have really come from there. So the research is really the bedrock of the foundation, and that is available online. You can find a lot of this information at hiddenheroes.org, but if you again have some trouble locating it, you can send me an email. And it found a lot of things that caregivers know that we live every day. One of the things is that they found that there are 5.5 million of us living across the nation. Being a caregiver can be really isolating because you're really wearing a lot of hats and doing a lot of things, but we are very, very much not alone. And this research kind of helped show that as well. And it showed the many hats that we wear. Some of us are sole breadwinners. We're balancing caring for our loved one. We're working, we're caring for children, we're caring for aging adults. We're really doing all of those not fun things that make us adults, legal and financial challenges, complex medical conditions. It's a lot. And we really are working to help take care of our loved ones' physical and mental health as well. And we are very much the first line of defense in caring for our loved ones. And the research also had some areas of action that have really helped spur on the programming for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And I will get to that as well. So aside from the programs, the research has helped created some tools. This is the Caregiver Journey Experience Map, and it was created to outline a typical veteran caregiver experience. Now, we know that no experience for a caregiver is typical, but they did find that we do have a lot of shared experiences regardless of what issues our loved ones are experiencing. So they took information from the research, as well as additional military and veteran caregivers, researchers, members of the caregiver support community, and created this map to kind of show some things that you can expect that will happen. Now, these slides are very, very small. But you can go to caregiverjourney.elizabethdolefoundation.org to see it in a bigger form. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the next slide as well. And I think it can be helpful in a lot of ways. For caregivers, we can take a look at where we are and kind of get a little bit of guidance. The caregiver map has these landmarks, turning points, and then key needs, which can help us focus our energy into specific areas. Again, we wear a lot of hats. We have a lot going on. So for me anyway, the key need can really help me get down to brass tacks and think, okay, this is exactly what I need to be focusing on based on where I am on that journey map. I think I saw, oh yeah, Max. It is very daunting. It is very, very big. Yeah. And I think it's helpful for caregivers so that we can see that we're not alone, that lots of us are experiencing this. Again, it can help us zoom in on those key needs. But I think what's also really interesting is that it's a circle, it's a cycle. When our loved ones are injured, diagnosed with an illness, we think, okay, this is what we have to deal with. But more often down the road, more and more things can happen. And we come right back to that kind of initial starting place where we're becoming aware and adjusting to some sort of new normal. Now, the key needs.
I just have to add really quick to this chat. So just in case anybody can't see it, Max is saying that the Caregiver Journey Map is fascinating and like they were talking about can be a little daunting, but I love that you say when a Dole fellow explains it to you, it's an aha moment. So that is a product well conceived. I love that because we all need those. Love that way that was explained, Max.
So here is a zoom in of one of the key needs. And I think one of my favorite parts is that the number one build part in a key need is the caregiver quality of life. As a caregiver, I say this, I hear this, but I don't ever truly prioritize it as high on the list as I need to. And I love anytime that it is listed that we need to work on putting ourselves up higher on that to-do list because we are working on taking care of everybody else. And often something's got to give somewhere. And so often we allow our needs to kind of go by the wayside. But I think this journey map, one of the great things is it kind of helps snap you back into that realization that, you know, nothing's working if I'm not taking care of myself. So again, quality of life for the caregiver is huge, but also family relationships, coordinating care, health and well-being, employment and financial support. And these key needs kind of help you zero in onto ways that you can help yourself and your family. Now, that was just an example of a tool that the foundation has created. The Elizabeth Dole Foundation has a really robust programs that help caregivers in every space that we exist in. They work really hard on advocating on the highest levels with VA, with legislators, empowering caregivers to do that themselves, and also listening to us. And I think as hidden heroes, the Elizabeth Dole Foundation coined the term hidden heroes for caregivers, because a lot of times we're really behind the scenes doing all of the work that's making everybody else successful. When we're kind of in the shadows like that, we can feel not heard and we can feel not seen. But the program is the opposite of that. They listen to what we have to say. And all of these programs have been created because caregivers have spoken up and said, this is the difficulties that I am experiencing. And the foundation listened and helped to fill all of those unmet needs. So the Caregiver Fellows Program, that is why I am here. And if you have ever had the pleasure of meeting Senator Elizabeth Dole, she just beams about this program, as well as anybody that works for the foundation. They are so proud of their fellows, and they really, this is a presentation that they created, and they say that we are the heart and soul of the foundation. So there are Dole Fellows in every single state and Puerto Rico. Some states have multiple fellows because they're large or just because they love their applicants so much. And it is a 2-year fellowship, and you really have the ability to turn the fellowship into whatever you want. The foundation understands that caregiving is our #1 priority. So they want to be there to empower us to do that job, but also to expand our role by being involved in the fellowship program. So like I mentioned, the foundation listens, and advising the foundation on programs and initiatives is a really big part of what us fellows do, and a really easy thing to log on and kind of share an experience and get a big impact. The foundation also helps to empower us to advocate for support nationally and locally. There is a Fellows Week where the foundation flies fellows from all across the country into Washington, D.C. for a week full of programming. There's a beautiful gala where we get dressed up. There is lots and lots of training. We get to do networking, and then we get to meet with our state and local legislators to help share our story and share our solutions to help make change for ourselves and for many like us. And like I said, they really empower you to make your fellowship whatever you want it to be. There are some fellows that have their own nonprofits that can get some support from the foundation to boost. They can create programming within their local communities. They can participate in some of the programs that I'm about to share about. For me personally, student loan debt has been a really difficult struggle for my family. So I have had meetings with local legislators. The foundation is helping me work on getting some legislation passed to help myself and others like me. And again, I can't say enough about this program. I feel like I said empowering a million times, but I can't tell you how much of a voice I feel like I've gained from participating in this program. And if you are a caregiver who is listening, just apply. It does not hurt. You will really go on a journey that will bring you to a really exciting place. And for all of these wonderful support people that are here and listening, this is a really great program to recommend to any caregiver who is interested in getting a little more involved or a little bit unsure of their own role as a caregiver. It's I can't say enough about it, for sure. Hidden Hero Cities and Counties is another program that fellows are kind of fueling. This was launched in 2016, and it was really designed to create some support for caregivers within their community. It's meant to help caregivers identify as caregivers, help to educate caregivers on the help that is there, educate the community on what caregivers are doing, and helping connect the community, caregivers, and all of the resources that exist. And to date, there are more than 160 communities that have passed a resolution or proclamation pledging support for this program. There's also a Hidden Hero state, and the foundation is really holding these communities accountable by doing lots of outreach to say, okay, you've passed a proclamation. What exactly are you doing to help the caregivers that live in your state, in your county, in your community? So the Campaign for Inclusive Care, I think, is a really exciting program that, again, was created because caregivers said that they were struggling. they did not feel like they were included in their loved one's care team. And the foundation listened and really tapped into some of their really strong partners. So this was an initiative between the foundation and the VA and USAA as well. And it is a training program for VA providers, healthcare professionals, and caregivers to really give us all tools to better communicate and collaborate and support the caregiver and the service member and the veteran. I have a little video that explains it a little bit better than I can, so I will share that.
They're down, but not out. Time is short, and everything is on the line. You wouldn't walk onto the field without the best, most well-equipped team available to you, would you? Of course not. Currently, there are often missed opportunities in clinical settings by not creating a system and practice of more inclusive care teams that equally encompass the wounded warriors, caregivers, and providers. Caregivers can be a huge asset to doctors and other care providers, but only if they're in the game, or rather in the room, when the plans start being drawn up. That's what we mean when we talk about the Campaign for Inclusive Care. The Campaign for Inclusive Care, in partnership with Elizabeth Dole Foundation, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, and supported by USAA, is working to shift the culture of care, to be fully inclusive of family caregivers, so that veteran health outcomes are improved, the caregiver experience is better, and clinicians and staff are more supported in their important work. By remembering to CARE, we can make sure that we've got the full strength of our team, caregivers and all, and make sure that we're giving our all to those who have given so much for us.
So the feedback on this program has been great. They rolled it out in a small regional VAs, and the VAs loved it, that they really wanted to push it nationally way quicker than the foundation was even expecting. So you can ask your VA providers if they have received this training. The training is available online. You can go to hiddenheroes.org and learn a little bit more about it as well. And it kind of focuses on these basic tenets: considering who else needs to be present, asking the veteran, is there someone you'd like in a room with you? Is there somebody that helps you with these things that you need to do? We know that our veterans and our service members are doing the heavy lifting, but we're really supporting them with, again, physical and mental health issues. So acknowledging the role that the caregiver is playing can really help create holistic care for the veteran and help the medical providers understanding where the needs are and how to support the family as a unit. And that includes reviewing the role. What exactly is the caregiver doing? What is the service member doing? Where do we need some help? And then encouraging caregivers to access that assistance when they need it.
So can I clarify really quick? So the training, is the training for medical providers, clinicians, or caregivers, or both?
The training is primarily for medical.
Okay.
For medical, but there is also training for caregivers as well to help us be more effective communicators so that we can be a really valued member of the team as well.
Gotcha. Well, this is great.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like folding the caregiver into the overall treatment plan and as a critical role, which they are.
Yeah, I mean, we would hear from caregivers saying, my loved one has memory issues and they're not allowed to have somebody in the doctor's office with them. And then they come out and they don't remember what the doctor said, or they forgot to share this really important thing that's happened. And I think that just having, and the training isn't forever. It's not like 12 hours worth of really mundane training. They're short little snippets meant to pack a big punch. And they're little reminders, like, again, just asking the veteran, is there somebody that you'd like here with you? That could really change the game.
So is this just in the VA at the moment? Do you know?
I believe so, but I
Okay.
think you can access the trainings on the website, on the hiddenheroes.org. I think there's at least
Okay.
some available.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the Elizabeth Dole Foundation supports caregivers in all spaces that we're in. So we obviously work at home caring for our loved ones, but many of us work out in the community as well. The RAND study found that many post 9/11 caregivers are working outside the home. So caregivers were kind of sharing, it's hard to find employment. I need to help bring in some finances for our family to live, but it's hard to find a job. And when I do find a job, it's hard to keep a job while I'm prioritizing my caregiving of my loved one. So the foundation listened and again partnered with AARP and Hiring Our Heroes and created this really great guide that helps educate employers on the role that military and veteran caregivers play and the value that we can bring to our company. So caregivers wear many hats. The multitasking skills alone that we have are an incredible asset to any sort of corporation that's looking to hire us, but doesn't necessarily translate to a resume. Many of us have huge gaps in our work experience because of an inciting incident where we had to stop work and take care of our loved one. So this guide was created in collaboration with companies, organizations, and federal agencies to help show how caregivers can really shine, the unique resources and assets that we can bring to the table, and ways to help support us in this role. And they just list many ways, like providing trainings, establishing work plans, and the ever important flexible scheduling. And so another great, really direct program that they have that meets caregivers exactly where they are is the Hidden Heroes Caregiver Community, which is an online support group. And the internet is a scary place. Even in corners of the internet that are supposed to be lifting you up can really just drag you down. And I would say that the HHCC is one of the very few safe places on the internet that I actually trust. Sometimes these communities can get a little bit negative, can get really judgy, but this online support group is impeccably well moderated. It is really a very positive and uplifting vibe. People can go there and vent and get information and share information and really just connect with caregivers on the computer because not all of us live right next door to somebody who's going through the same thing that another person is. And it's not all just support like that. They have really fun caregiver self-care challenges every month where you can win prizes. They just did a fun trivia night that the whole community was invited to do virtually. So it's a really great, safe place for caregivers to get some help. And I always recommend that that's really the first place you start if you're just getting introduced to the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, because it's really easy to sign up and it's really easy to just scroll through on your Facebook page. Now, I think I'd be a little remiss if I didn't share a little bit about what the foundation has done since COVID. This year has been really immensely difficult for so many of us. And the foundation heard that and they really pivoted to create this resource hub that can help provide lots and lots of resources of different organizations that are helping caregivers manage different COVID-19 related difficulties. So the website hiddenheroes.org/coronavirus is a great place to go and check out to find even more resources. They also, I don't have a slide on it, but they created some virtual programming this year that has been really helpful. The Caregiver Community Connection, or C3 series. And it has been all centered around self-care. So Lee Woodruff, caregiver to her husband, Bob Woodruff, did a C3 program where she talked about sharing your story and writing. There were videos related to healthy eating, yoga, helping your children through this. And this was just something that Lee Woodruff had put together, and the full article you can find on AARP, is just some lessons and some words of wisdom from caregivers, because we are nothing if not resilient and able to kind of navigate through trauma and difficult life lessons. So she shared just some little tidbits of information that the fellows wanted to share with the rest of the world. This is a new program. This is really exciting, and this is the last formal program that I'm going to talk about, and that is Respite Relief for Caregivers. The RAND study that was completed years ago had said that respite relief was a huge need in the community, and this is something that has been echoed by caregivers since the foundation has started. We need help. We can't be everything to everybody all the time. So the foundation partnered with VA and CareLinks, and they've created this new respite relief program. And it provides no cost short-term relief with the help of in-home care professionals. So the eligibility requirements: you must be a family caregiver to a wounded, ill, or injured service member or veteran. And this does not mean you have to be a VA designated caregiver. The foundation is really inclusive in their definition of caregiver. So you just have to fill out a really short form. This will not impact your status as a VA designated caregiver. You don't have to be participating in that program to access this respite relief. You do just have to submit proof of service from a VA letter, a military ID, DD-214, something like that. And then the relief support is really broad, which is great. So it includes things like toileting, bathing, dressing, and grooming, really direct support to your veteran, but it can also be a really great way to help take some things off of the plate of the caregiver so that they can go and participate in some self-care, or they can spend more time with their kids, or they can spend more time with their loved one. So these really incredible CareLinks respite workers will come to your house and do some light housekeeping. They'll go grocery shopping for you. They're preparing meals for you for the whole week, because I can't tell you how many times I have stared at that refrigerator and thought, I sure enough cannot come up with one more meal to feed this family this week on top of all of the other things that I've had to do. So this was something that I didn't really know respite relief could provide, but there's also a respite relief Q&A that was on the Elizabeth Dole Foundation Facebook website that you can go on there, that they outlined some of this, which I think was a really eye-opener for me as a caregiver. And they are also, was there a question?
I did just want to let you know, Dexter wants to know if the service is provided on a national level.
Yes, sir. Yep. So CareLinks is in a lot of communities, but they are not in every community. So they are working with people to help find workers that can come to their home. But if there isn't a CareLinks representative available, they are trying to work with families to have them find somebody. So say you had a friend that would come and do this for you, that CareLinks would pay them. So we're trying to get it to be in all communities, but if there isn't a direct CareLinks provider near you, the foundation will work with you to try to make it happen. I think that answered the question. And
sorry, one last question. I think you said it, but so you don't have to have an official VA caregiver designation, you're saying. So basically you're saying, like, I think we talked about this a little bit, Colleen, and how exciting this is. And one of the other things you talked about is this is one of the hardest things for caregivers to ask for, though.
Yeah. So I was telling Kelly, when I first saw this and I brought it up to my husband, and he said, this is so great. So many people could benefit from this. Of course, not thinking that we would be grouped into that group. And he thought, well, we're doing pretty okay. So I don't want to take the hours away from anybody else. And this was the exact conversation that I think many caregivers had with their recipients of care, because not enough of us are accessing this really incredible service. I, for one, didn't think that it made sense for me to apply, but I am working on kind of checking myself and accepting more help, because I think I mentioned as caregivers, we just do it all, right? We're just taking care of things. Sometimes it's easier we think it's just easier for us to do it, but it's not sustainable for a lot of us.
It's
And
not. And I think too, like I've heard from caregivers, it's almost a little bit of a sense of guilt if they take time for themselves or ask for help that they perhaps are taking away from somebody else, or like it's supposed to be their role in their job, so they can't give it to somebody else because then they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing and they feel a little guilty about it.
yeah. And I mean, I feel like I have that new guilt as a new mom, like when the baby goes down for a nap and I know I have 30 minutes, I'm like, do I wash the dishes? Do I clean the sink? Do I fill out this paperwork? Do I do some work? And it's like, I should just stop and take care of myself. And that's what this respite relief does, is it's truly just a gift to it's a gift of time for you. And it could take some mundane things off of your plate to help you do the things that you want to do that you don't realize that you need to do.
I just have a quick question. I'm looking at this carelinks.com, and it's talking about that it's reliable, certified, $15 an hour and up. So what does that mean to service members who need respite care? They can't maybe afford to have pay $15. And if I'm understanding, does the Dole Foundation pay for that?
Yes, so this is very much meant as an introduction to respite care. So I believe the iteration of it is about 24 to 25 free hours of respite care. And you can use that in whatever little increments that you want to. So it is completely covered by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation.
And is that in total then, 25 or just a month? Or is that in total over
That's in total for right now.
Okay.
The program is hopefully going to expand over time, but right now it's just this small amount as an introduction to the relief program.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And they're very COVID careful. So I don't want people to be afraid to apply. And in case, God forbid, they get a COVID diagnosis in their home, that they won't be able to access the service. If you get approved for it and somebody gets sick, CareLinks will work with you to schedule care once it's safe to do so. They're also very, very careful. The people that are coming into your home, they follow all CDC protocols. They do whatever your family is comfortable with. We've really had some great testimonies on how this has really helped families get a much needed break, for sure. Yeah, so that's the respite program, and that's new. And again, you could just go in and apply. The application is really easy. It doesn't take much more than 5 minutes, and you really just need to submit one proof of service. It's just probably the trickiest part, is just uploading that document. And there's a list of documents that you can find on there. And then hopefully it can really open the door to get some help and some relief, especially now when we're all kind of home, just staring at each other all the time, washing the same dish 5 million times. I feel like this is a pretty timely program to help caregivers where they are. So I'm from New Jersey, so I know that I talk kind of fast. And I think I hope I gave a pretty broad view of the programs that the foundation offers. And I feel like it can seem like it's a little nebulous because they're just truly listening to caregivers and where the needs are and trying to meet those needs. So the foundation doesn't really do just one thing. They kind of do it all in the realm of advocating and empowering caregivers. So I think the best place to kind of get started for caregivers is applying on hiddenheroes.org. so that you can access the HHCC. And then when you're on the online community, they will share all of the opportunities that are available to you at any time. And there are even archives of things. So if you're looking for a scholarship for your child to go to camp in the summer, you can search that. There's just a lot of really great resources from the people who are living and breathing this every single day. So I would recommend that as a great place to get started. I think we had some questions, but I really don't want to open up the chat and mess up my screen. Or I guess I could probably stop sharing at this point. This is the way to get in touch with everybody. Our CEO, our manager for the campaign programs, the Fellows Program Manager. You can find us everywhere on social media, hiddenheroes.org, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We are kind of all over the place. So how about I stop sharing and then we can kind of go through some questions.
So how do we find out who our fellow is in our area? So that I can make contact with that person so that we can get a collaboration going for, because I have I just was wondering, how do I get a hold of that person?
I love that idea, Rhonda. So if you go to hiddenheroes.org, you can search for the current fellows. You can search for previous fellows, but you can look for who's the current fellows right now. And like I mentioned, they're 2-year programs, so they're always kind of rotating. The applications are due usually in February, and they're typically announced by now, but because of COVID, right, like things are a little bit slower. So there might be some open slots that are going to be filled.
How could we, as people who are either peer support coordinators or are otherwise involved in the programs, how could we have done a better job talking to you and trying to bring you in and help you believe, even though you don't believe it today, that you need help and that you need support and that it's okay to do those things? What could we do better for you today, but also, in those first months when you were just learning that you were a caregiver? Or just accepted the fact that things in your life had changed?
I love that question, Roger. I feel like the biggest thing that has been helpful to me is just continuing to remind me of that and continuing to offer the support, because like I'm the one that has to do the work, right? Like I have to get to the point where I'm willing to accept it. And I feel like I've had to hear it a million times. I've had to see it a million times. I've had to say it myself a million times to finally kind of get to this place where I feel deserving of it. It's hard. It's sad to say it, but it's hard. And I think that one of the things that MASP did, at least in the beginning, was just including me, because originally the invitation just felt weird because it was like, well, this is for you. Like, this is about you. This isn't about me. Like, you need to get better. I want to focus myself on you. So I felt a little strange going to begin with. So maybe if the wording is really clear that caregivers and family members are involved, maybe that would be really helpful. Like when things are advertised, maybe like having that, bulleted up there somewhere, like, please, instead of like, recovering service members come, it's like service members and caregivers. If it's just kind of all in one, maybe it would feel a little less strange and maybe it would feel a little more inclusive. I think it's hard to kind of, we have this conversation with the Respite program. It's hard to feel like we're taking the space of somebody that needs it more than us, because we're always playing this like trauma Olympics, like, well, they have it worse than I do, so they should do this. That's not for me because I've got it taken care of, But I think that if it's inclusive from the get-go, maybe that would be a little more helpful. But like I said, I feel like we all kind of have our own experiences and all have that breaking point where we realize we don't have a choice. And I think just normalizing the situation that we're in, I feel like the The online peer support groups are helpful because it makes me see like, okay, I'm not the only one doing this. I feel like normalizing our life is helpful, including us from the get-go, but it's tough, man.
Well,
I
I think
wish I had I had a
hence,
better answer.
hence with all of that, because the MASP, I'm not familiar totally with the MASP program, but that's why we exist as peer support coordinators. We exist only, I'm not saying only, but yes, I am going to say only. We are there to support the caregivers, period. That is who we service. That is who we talk to. What can I do for you? Not what you can do for the family, not what we, those resources that I send out are inclusive of the family of things, but it's more about you. What do you need? How can I help you?
Going off of that, Rhonda, I do think that something that was helpful for me is actually laying out the care that I am providing and the things that I do in a day. And I feel like when you're logically looking at a list that's longer than you really thought, it can be a little bit of a wake up call, talking to caregivers and saying like, what do you take care of in a day? What are your duties? What are the duties of the other people in your house? And kind of when you can see it that way, you can realize, oh, wow, like I am doing the job of like 6 people. And then maybe if I know that there's resources out there and I know that people who need it are getting it, there's not a limited supply, I'm not taking it away from anybody, I might be more inclined to accept that.
Colleen, I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Was a fantastic presentation.
Thank you
to be here. Thank you to all the Magellan Peer Support Coordinators who came today as well to share with us. And I'm so excited to get you all connected and keep this collaboration going. So I just want to say thank you guys in case anybody's got to go. It was fantastic.